right, hi. So back in middle school, you know, when you used to make the boosters for people at basketball games and track meets and things like that. So my friends and I, we like to decorate t-shirts. And because I was known as a little bit of an artist back in my day, and still now, I used to get asked to make everybody's t-shirts. And so it's just something that I kept doing all through high school and college. And I've kind of evolved a little bit from the puffy paint that I used to use back in the day to now I've come up with this new technique that I found on YouTube of actually making a stencil and using it to make a screen print t-shirt, kind of like you would buy in the store, but it's your own little piece of artwork that you could carry around with you. You won't even mind telling anybody that you made it, like, oh, this is a Marcia original. That'll be your shirt here. So just like any other project, you always want to start off with getting your materials together, right? So you want to get a design that you like. I already have my design down on the table, but just print it out the exact size that you wanted to show up on your shirt. So I decided to use a crown since I have so many beautiful queens in the audience tonight. Beautiful. Also, you're going to need a marker to trace your design. You're also going to use an X-Acto knife that we're going to use to cut your stencil out, and then a fabric paint of your choice. I like the Tulip that you get from Michaels because they always have a coupon at Michaels, and then also some tape, and I just have water here for my paintbrushes, and then also freezer paper is the key. We're making freezer paper t-shirts, so you need freezer paper, not wax paper. If you get wax paper, it will not turn out right, so you want to get the freezer paper that has the plastic backing. That's key, and I hope everyone has an iron in their house. Yeah. So our first step is, after we print off our design, we're going to take our piece of freezer paper and you want to put it with the wax part facing down, the plastic part facing downward, and put it on top of your design and trace it out. But for the sake of time, instead of you sitting here watching me trace it, I've already traced out my design. And so here it is. And so after you have your design traced out, you're ready to make your stencil, which is the centerpiece for the whole project that we're doing here. And so this is where your X-Acto knife comes in. So you want to go through and just start to cut out your design, making sure that you have something on the back. This is going to go all the way through the paper, so you don't want to sit it down on your nice new table that you just got. So put, some cardboard or a piece of wood underneath it, or if you have a cutting board for my crafters out there. And so yeah, you just want to go through and cut out your entire design so you can lift it up. Have a little visitor in here. So also, for the sake of time, I have already cut out my stencil, and what you do next is you place your stencil down on your t-shirt exactly where you want it to go. I think the positioning is pretty good here, Camilla. That looks nice for you. And so go ahead and stick another freezer paper in between the front and back of your shirt, just so none of the paint seeps through. We could go ahead and get that in there now. And then you just want to iron down your stencil so that it's pretty much stuck to the paper. That plastic finish on the back that I told you about is going to melt down into your t-shirt. And you just want to keep ironing it until you have no space, no gaps in between your freezer paper and your shirt, because you want your lines to turn out nice and clean. And after you've gotten all of that done, now you've finished all of the hard part. We're just going to go through and paint our stencil now. I prefer to use the paintbrush that's kind of like a sponge because it doesn't leave any of those paintbrush lines. And so you just go through and just lightly tap the paint. You don't want to be too heavy-handed with it, but just lightly tap your paint onto your design. Really nice and quick. But yeah, this is the fun, easy part here. And if you want your design to come out really bold, you might want to just let it dry in between and just do a couple of different coats. I want mine to be pretty light, and plus I'm using a dark color, but if you're using a lighter color, you're gonna need to do a couple of extra coats. And so far in the process, since we're pretty much getting close to the end, does anybody have any questions so far? No? No? All good. Also, another important thing to note is that you don't want to have your steam setting on your iron. That can produce a lot of moisture and end up making your paper kind of gap up and have bubbles, and then paint can kind of seep through those too and mess up your nice clean lines that you work so hard to get. But the hardest part of this whole thing is just keeping your hand steady enough to cut everything out with that X-Acto knife. Yep, I'm just doing one nice quick layer. And you know, just go through and make sure you filled in everything here. Alright, so now that I'm done painting, this is a part that I like to do because it kind of gives my stencil a little bit of time to dry. The thing about freezer paper is that even though it makes a good stencil, if it's still too wet when you're trying to pull it up, it can rip and then also make your lines not so clean. So I just take a little bit of time here just to kind of clean up my work area a little bit, because it just gives me a little bit of time to let that dry before I start to peel it up. I'll leave that there because I can cut it out and make another one later. But yeah, go ahead and clean your paintbrush off so you're ready for your next project, because after this, you're going to do some nice, great projects. Because you're going to be so inspired, right, everybody? Who's ready to go home and start making some t-shirts? Who's starting their t-shirt business next week? All right, so yeah, just a couple seconds to dry. You don't have to wait too long. But now is an important part too. You want to carefully, very carefully, just start to peel your stencil up, and try not to press it back down onto the paper, because that can also mess up your nice clean lines. And I usually go ahead and fold this up and toss it, because you're not going to be able to use this again. So this is what we got.
Ooh, I love it. Oh my God.
Yeah. So yeah, you can see how easy that was.
Mm-hmm.
So now that we have our design on our shirt, yeah, you wouldn't mind wearing that, right?
Not at all.
And it was just that easy. Even if you have no artistic ability at all, you can print off a design that you like, trace it onto the paper, and then just iron it down and peel it right up. So it didn't take any special skill at all. And I hope that, so the next thing that you would do, I love to heat set my design. It's not necessarily, mandatory to do, but I like to do it because it makes it last longer. You want your design to completely dry. You want to wait a few hours, and then you're just gonna flip it inside out and then iron the reverse side of the design. Then from there, depending on your instructions for your particular paint, but if you use the same type I did, you just want to wait 72 hours before you put it in the washing machine, but then you can use it like any other shirt. All right. Does anybody have any questions? You're excited to go off?
Yeah.
Make your shirts now, right?
I'm inspired.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you all for being in my audience, and I enjoyed you. Bye, Miss H.
Bye, Miss H.
Bye, Miss H.